love you. Shelter you from doubts, keep you in the light, lost you to the night. If only I had known how to guide your heart to love yourself.
Hello, everybody. This is Driftwood Conversations. I'm Hillary Sloan. Today's guest is Mark Winters, a singer-songwriter based in Sugar Land, Texas, and a former aerospace engineer and life sciences professional who took what he calls a right turn at Albuquerque and fully stepped into music. Mark writes what he describes as folk pop, soft rock with a positive vibe. But it's more than positivity. His songs braid science, poetry, curiosity, and big questions about being human, especially in a time when AI is changing the landscape around all of us. In this conversation, we discuss creativity, touring, co-writing, learning to be wrong, and what it means to lead with wonder in a fast-paced world. Hi, Mark. Nice to meet you.
Hello, Hillary. How you doing?
I'm good.
I'm in Houston, and it's been really warm. We took a little family vacation. It got cold during our vacation. When we got back, it was warm again. But the good news is we're headed to Alaska in a week, and we're going to hang out there for a week and get our dose of cold in.
How wonderful. How fun. Is that your wife and children?
And my wife and I are going. The kids can't take the time off, but we're going to go for a week. And my wife is, I guess her family is originally from Norway, and she loves the cold weather. And so I try to get her out in the mountains at least a couple of times a year, maybe 3 or 4, to keep her happy. You know. Well,
let's start in our conversation. So, tell me who you are, what you do, where you live.
I am a singer-songwriter. I'm based here in a suburb of Houston called Sugar Land, Texas. I am a former aerospace engineer and life sciences person who I guess took a right turn at Albuquerque and became an artist. I love math and science. I love the world and the people in it, and find a lot of positive inspiration in the world around me. I like to write about that, and so my writing has science and poetry influences and positivity influences. I'm really enjoying this phase of my life. I was touring last year, bringing what I call rock with a positive vibe out to the world.
So do you have albums out?
I do, Hillary, I do. I put my first album out in 2019. Excited to get it out, but poor timing because I released it in May and was touring behind it, and COVID sort of squashed me. I was sad for a bit and pivoted to an online style of a show, did a bunch of charity fundraising during COVID, and learned to be more of a singer-songwriter than a 4-piece band. And then I've put out 2 more albums since then. I have another one in the works. I've released 3 songs out of 8 on this newest album called The Science in Me. I just released my latest single maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago called What Does It Mean to Be Human Anyway? In this world of AI, what are we supposed to do, So
I listened to several of your pieces that you sent me, and they all do have, it's more than just a positive vibe. It sounds like you're really sending a message. Is that true?
It is. I guess when I rolled out of my mama, I was seeing the world with sort of this positive light. When I meet new people, I quickly find the best in them. When I'm writing with someone else, or when I was doing engineering with someone else, I would always find, the beauty of that person, and that's what I see. It's just the way I sort of was made, I guess. What I love to do is to share that perspective through my music with other people who listen or perform with me. I love to tell stories as well. So when I'm out in a show, I just love a theater-style show where I can connect with the people and share some of the motives behind my songs. And so, I'm out to raise the level of positivity in the room before I leave. My favorite piece of merch it's Think Like a Proton.
What does that mean? Tell me about that.
Yeah, a little science nod. So molecules are made up by protons, neutrons, and electrons, and the electrons are always negative, and the neutrons are always neutral, and the protons, they're always positive, which is kind of my vibe. My songwriter buddies call me the relentlessly positive guy.
When you graduated high school, did you go into math and science before music?
Yeah, so coming out of high school, I loved applied mathematics. So I went to Texas A&M to study aerospace engineering, in particular computational fluid dynamics, which is the study of particles in compressible fluids or non-compressible fluids. I love math, differential equations, calculus, all of it. I love it. Everything but structures. I don't like structures, but everything else I love in the world of engineering.
What is structures in terms of math? What is structures?
In terms of engineering,
engineering.
When you do a structural analysis, you're sort of determining the load that an object can bear. So if you're a bridge designer, when you do the analysis, you're figuring out all the different forces on the bridge and how each one of them aggregate to create forces on the bridge that might make it collapse, and so you design it so that it has a certain tolerance in excess of those. And so structural engineering and the mathematics around it is very, it's close to accounting. It's very county, and it's less creative. Differential equations in calculus are far more creative. Many of the problems don't have solutions, which is probably why I love them. So there are approximations, and so I just happen to love that field. It's sort of a limitless field of learning,
And has your science and math been incorporated into your music? Have you thought of music in that way?
Yeah. So when I started really expressing myself, I wrote my first album. I really, I didn't know much about music. I didn't study music. I picked up a guitar to play a song for my wife for our anniversary. I just wanted to do something musical. That was in 2011. And it's a long story, but it was such an emotionally gratifying moment for me to share a song with someone else and the intimacy that goes with that. It wasn't my own song, it was a cover song I did. But I just got hooked. And so I started teaching myself and put together a little band locally. And when I was singing, I kept changing the lyrics to the songs I was singing because I didn't want to say the thing that the person who wrote it did. I wanted to say my own thing. And people were harassing me about that. So in 2018, I wrote my first album. And so I was just saying what was on my mind in a way that I could comprehend to put it into a musical context. I bought a couple of classes online to teach myself music from Udemy, and I taught myself music theory 1 and 2 and digital recording 1 and 2, so I had the basic foundation to actually compose. And I've just been on a learning spree ever since then, just really soaking it all in. Today, I would say, like when I wrote my first set of songs, my producer and I were sort of going through the 10 or 15 songs I had written to figure out which ones to go on the album. And we landed on much more mainstream concepts for that very first album. There are a few on that album that are heavy science. The name of that album is called Slipstream. It's mainly about where I was with the positive influences in my life, and what was important to me, and some of the events happening in my life. The producer thought the science elements might not resonate as well with my audience. When I wrote my second album, I incorporated a lot of those. So there's a song called Boundary Layer. That's the name of the album. My second album, it's a lot more about science and philosophy's overlap. Boundaries in our life, we're used to talking about those and experiencing all the bads and goods that go with boundaries that we have to overcome. In the world of science, there's also boundary layer theory in applied physics, where particles that are in a fluid that are moving as they as they get near another object that's in the fluid, they enter the boundary layer of the thing, and they interact with the boundary layer, and if they're approaching the surface, they actually slow down, stop, and decide to move in a new direction, which is very similar philosophically to how we think about, boundaries, the philosophical boundaries in our life, and how we might move. And so in the context of the song, we're pushing at the supersonic speed, right? I know what I need, right? I need to break through these boundaries. And so, that's a song that sort of has that juxtaposition that I love. I have many others I've written, like signals about radio waves and putting out energy that you feel like you purposefully want to put out, and being aware of how energy from other people affect you, like a little radio tower. And I have another song about the speed of light. And so, I've leaned more into my natural voice over time as I've gotten to know myself better and what I want to say. And it's got, most of it has science-oriented elements in it, for sure.
That's so interesting. Do you have a spiritual background?
My parents are Christian. My dad was from the Methodist denomination. My mom was from the Catholic. So when they got married, the kids went to Episcopal school, sort of in the middle. I would say I was probably most influenced by my grandma, a phenomenal person, my dad's mom, Dean C. Winters. When I was 5, my 4 brothers and I were hanging out with her at her house in the summers. And so we went to Methodist church with her. And somehow, I was very rambunctious, but somehow she put a spell on me or something, and I ended up in her sewing room writing poetry with her. And I don't know how it happened. I learned to paint from her and whatever else. And so you can imagine this 5-year-olds or whatever, as I grew up, totally filled with testosterone, playing every sport on the planet, but then I would sit down with grandma and we would write poems together. It was pretty cool. I think she was very influential in the opening of my spirit and my mind to the arts and just the feeling of the universe, Just she helped me touch that. And so, yes, I would say she gave me a very strong spiritual core. I didn't go to seminary or become a priest or anything else. I'm a very spiritual person, but it's a sort of a natural state of being for me that she instilled in me when I was young.
You're married and you have children. Does your wife share your positivity?
She's a good, positive person. I would say she's not as on the nose as I am about it, but if you watch what she does, she's amazing. She's been her whole life super in touch with, the animal community. So she's had, when she was a little kid, she had pet ducks and cats and dogs and a raccoon. And she had, so she's like this universal mother, right? I mean, she loves nurturing and having people around, our kids and fur babies and whatever else. And so I never had a pet in my life until I met her. She and I volunteer together. She's always looking to help people. She's been super material in her sister's children's lives. So just if you sort of look around her, Hillary, you'd see she's a positive person. She just doesn't write songs about it. And she's not as on the nose about it as I am. People are like, okay, dude, dial it down. She's cool. Yeah, I'm very blessed to have her as my wife, for sure.
How old are your kids?
So my daughter is 28 and my son is 26.
Oh, they're grown.
Yeah.
I was thinking little ones.
Yeah. My daughter's a labor and delivery nurse, which, she gets to tell the stories every day about. She works at the biggest women's hospital in Houston, so Texas Women's, and I think they deliver 800 or 900 babies a month, right?
Oh my goodness!
And so she personally, and she's on a huge team, but she personally delivers 1 or 2 babies a day, and so she has a story every day. And then my son, he is finance professional for a chain out here in the area, and he's also an AI expert. And he's phenomenal. He sings with me too. We songwrite together, and he sings with me. And so we have an amazing set of kids, for sure.
Do you have a label behind your music?
No, everything is so new for me, Hillary. I really didn't know what I was doing. Kind of, through sheer force of will and determination, and maybe just skills I brought from other professions. I've navigated my way into, a few successful South by Southwest showcases, and I got exposed to a tour company, and I ended up getting, into the touring environment last year. And I'm just building my brand as an independent artist. At some point, I'm sure labels might be interested in me. I don't have millions of followers on TikTok, maybe 5,000 or 10,000 people on socials, or sort of following me at this point. And I'm building that part. So I would say, I have lots of friends who are ahead of me, who tell me, if you make the right, label connection, it's super helpful for you, if you have the right mindset around it. I don't know. Do you know other people who are on labels, Hillary, to give me any advice on that front?
Not right now. In the earlier part of my life, I knew people in the music industry. I don't know where we're going right now. As humanity as a whole, things are shifting. The music business isn't what it was. The film business, which I'm more familiar with, isn't what it was. A lot of people are out of work. You might do better independently.
Yeah, to me, I've always been sort of curious fundamentally, right? I think that has helped me as a scientist, as a mathematician, as a writer, as a poet. I think so. As AI's come out, I experiment with it all the time. I use ChatGPT heavily for my tour planning. All the fundamentals. Whenever in the world could I have been driving and talking to ChatGPT on my phone and figuring out the logistics of what I'm doing, right? I mean, it's like, what? It's amazing. I am heavily involved in the songwriting community here in Houston. And I think it scares a lot of people because, there are things that can be done much more quickly, but maybe they lack the human touch. And so there's a whole lot of uncertainty. I think, Hillary, you're right. It's like, what's happening in the music industry. I know, Universal just bought Suno and or UMG, and so there's a lot of things going on that are changing the way song creation and publication will happen. I love change, so it doesn't scare me. I'm all in. Let's go. Let's all figure out how to use the new tools together.
It's interesting. You used a word that has been coming up for this last 2 weeks, is curiosity. And so it's interesting. I keep hearing it coming up. So synchronicity. You've said it. I heard it from someone else yesterday. It's like, instead of thinking we have to fix anything, why not just be curious about everything and then decide while we're looking at it or going into it what way we want to go to enhance our lives.
I love that. I've always been fundamentally curious about everything. I'm very, experimental. I love being out on the edge of things. I love surfing and rollerblading and being out in the world and new places and meeting new people. My favorite thing to do as a songwriter is to write with someone else, because I love the chance to touch someone else's energy, right, and to create something together. And I think songwriting is the only occupation I'm aware of where you can sit down with someone who you have never met before in a writing room, and you can get so deep into each other's emotions and connect and come out with a new creation together that is formed and a part of the two of you. And then you may not see that person again, and you may write with them again, right? Or you may not. I don't know anywhere else that can happen, in that kind of time frame, right? And so I think my fundamental sense of curiosity and synchronicity, as you mentioned, really helps me embrace that process and love it. If you're not a fundamentally curious person, it's got to be a very scary time, because there's so much, and there's an old book my grandpa suggested I read called Who Moved My Cheese? Which is about change and change management in your life, right? And how well you adapt to it. And that's always sort of stuck in my head.
It's so interesting. I mean, I was in the film industry as a stylist for photographers, wardrobe, props. And that, I suppose, took a lot of curiosity because was always learning, and I liked history. So I liked costumes that were period pieces, and how to make something quickly and fast. I was the one they called when they wanted to go from the 20s to the future, and all I had was 2 days. That was, my little niche. But when I got into journalism and what I'm doing now, I think I really understood that it was curiosity. Like, how do you think? Who are you? What got you here? I love that too. That's what you're describing.
Yeah, and you can, to me, I think I get along so well with people who are curious like that, and you could come from any background, any profession, like you're talking about, right? It makes me want to ask you questions about fashion design and how do you get in that creative space, right? To sort of let yourself absorb, the new direction, right? I think that's awesome.
Well, that's interesting too. I mean, as a songwriter, how do you get into your creative space?
It's interesting how that's evolved. When I was just starting as a songwriter in 2018, putting my first set of songs together, I'm going to call myself incompetent, right? I didn't know the thing, right? I didn't have control of my voice. I didn't have control of my instruments that I was playing. I could get through them, right? And given the right number of takes, I could get everything down on the album and whatever I needed to do. But I really wasn't. It wasn't intuitive for me to have a natural approach. But what was natural for me was the lyrics, because I was a poet. And so very easy for me to adapt my poetic mind to songwriting verses and choruses and bridges. It was an easy transformation to me. I found myself able to start with a concept like a poet would and let that freestyle come out of me. Like, what am I thinking? Why am I feeling this way? I wrote this song called Be There, right? I was in a restaurant and I was looking around and like everybody was on their phone. I'm sitting here having dinner with my wife and everybody's on their phone. They're not even paying attention to the person sitting across from them. Eyes on eyes, hand in hand, with me, be there. I could get that. I could get that in my poetry. I could get that into lyric. I had to figure out how to make a melody with that, which was very difficult for me to sort of intuit because I hadn't trained my voice. And so I started writing the melody on my guitar first because I played guitar before I sang. And so in the beginning, it was lyric. It was a concept and an emotion that started in poetry. Maybe it started as a haiku, which I like to write, or something else, and I would transform that into the lyrics of a song, and then I would write the melody on my guitar and the chords underneath that, and kept it super basic, and that was kind of my process. And then for that album and the second album, I was kind of getting better at that process, but I didn't really transform until I went to a songwriting retreat in Austin. It was the first education I'd ever had on songwriting. Andrea Stolpe has an amazing songwriter program, and it's curated, so you have to apply to get in. And when I was she does, I guess, a program in New York, one in Austin, one in LA. And so I was in the Austin version, and I learned to co-write with the people who were there at the retreat with me. We were there for a week, and every night I got a new group of 3 of us would get assigned to write a song together and perform it that night. And she would visit all the groups, and afterwards she would give you feedback on your writing. And she gave me feedback throughout the course that I was great about pulling everyone together and pulling all the strengths out of everyone and creating a great song, and I was a great instrumentalist rhythmically and whatever else, but my melodies were boring, right? So how do I solve that? I don't know how to do that. I've never been in music before. And so she said, look, just find the best melody writers that you know and go co-write with them 5 or 10 songs, and then just pay attention to where the melody part was, and then force yourself to be the melody writer for the next 10 songs and get your voice trained enough where you can intuitively do that. And now it's very intuitive. I just wrote a song with my son, 2 days ago. We sat down, we wrote it together. It took us a half an hour to put the bones of just about everything together, maybe another hour to sort of flesh it out. 2 hours later, we had a song. We were both competent melody writers and lyricists, and so I feel very intuitive now. So to me now, I start with the concept. And the concept and my guitar in my hand and my voice, and I start feeling the melody, I start feeling the rhythm, and my brain is organizing my thoughts into a poem or into lyrics, and next thing you know, it all sort of finds its way and adjusts its way into what is a song. And so I feel much more confident today to say I start with the emotional content and then just sort of let everything bubble,
How would you describe your music? Is it folk?
I would call myself probably folk pop or soft rock. It's there are melodic hooks in it that like you would find in a pop song. There are also some storytelling elements that you would find in folk, but it's not traditional folk.
Who are some of your favorite writers or lyricists?
So there's a couple people around town here who are really good in the Songwriting Association with me. And so I've learned a lot. Ray Wyatt is a great lyricist, and at Amash, they're great in town. On a larger scale, people who've influenced me, I like some of Jason Mraz's songs. I probably like some of Tom Petty's songs. My grandpa loved him. I actually learned to play the guitar playing John Mayer songs because he's a super amazing guitar player. Simon and Garfunkel. Yeah, my son and I sing those harmonies. Wow, they're so amazing. They're very hard, but they're amazing. Yeah, and I cover a few Bob Dylan songs. I saw the movie, and it was such a great movie.
It was.
To really maybe go back and think about all these songs he wrote. He's sort of like written, 500 songs he's put out. It's something, and it's insane how many people covered his songs, like "Make You Feel My Love." Who knew that was a Bob Dylan song? We thought it was an Adele song. You look it up, it's like, nope. And he's still writing.
Bridge Over Troubled Water. Every time I traveled somewhere and went to a concert, it was in South America, in Germany, Czechoslovakia, they always played that song. It is just beautiful.
I like Sound of Silence.
I do too.
And there's a group called Disturbed. I'm not sure if you've heard Disturbed before or not. They're a metal band, and they're like straight down the middle metal. The lead vocalist is actually a trained opera singer, but you would never guess it from their music. And he covers The Sound of Silence with them, and it is phenomenal. So if you're going to listen to, if you like Simon and Garfunkel, you should go listen to Disturbed singing Sound of Silence.
I will, because that would be very interesting. I love that song. It's just, there's many great songs.
Otis Redding, right? I mean, he was an amazing writer too, right?
You like country music. You're in Texas.
I do. I love listening to it. Country is so broad now. So, okay, two of my favorite performer writers going on right now. I like the Red Clay Strays. And if you haven't heard them, I would think of them as being like Southern rock, gospel Southern rock, maybe, something like that. That would be kind of where my brain would want to put them. But they have been embraced by the Country Music Association. They won the Best New Act of the Year, I think, or the Best Act of the Year this last year. And I saw them in Houston before they were famous a couple years ago, and I saw them sell out one of the bigger places here in Houston. The lead singer, Brandon, he's like, 6'5", looks like Elvis and Johnny Cash had a baby, right? I mean, he sings like that. He's just got this passion. And they write about non-standard things. I'm still fine, or, there's a whole, they have a lot of great songs that are not my pickup truck and my beer, right? So they're very thoughtful, and they deliver them really well. And then another guy who is just a phenomenal writer, Stephen Wilson Jr., He actually played one of the cameos on the CMA Awards this year. I started following him, I don't know, maybe a year and a half ago. He put this song out called I'm a Song, which was really well written. And then the one that really connected with me, I Am My Father's Son. And he wrote that about his dad, sort of trying to step out of his shadow and just sort of ended up being just like his dad. And this other guy, Hardy, who's a super famous writer, he's written a lot of the bigger country hits. And if you listen to Stephen Wilson Jr. sing, he's kind of got this, I don't know, it's almost like a Bruce Springsteen wail he does. It's like this very unique way he uses his voice. And if you really listen to the lyrics, they're really moving.
Stepping back for a moment and looking at your life as a whole, what were your greatest challenges?
I think I'm extremely competitive. And so everything I've done, I've always just been this super competitor. I just love a challenge. I could be playing a video game, I could be running with you, it didn't matter. I'm like all in and always competitive. Getting over myself in that area was hard. And my wife really helped me get over that. We would go out and do a thing together. She's there for the experience, and I'm there to win, right? And so she taught me a lot about just sort of dialing that back and smelling the roses a little bit when I need to. And so that's been super helpful. And then my daughter has reinforced that. She's really good about, getting me to step away from that side of my personality. And so just sort of dealing with that piece. I would say the other thing, I had maybe a really bad temper. My teenage years, just sort of taming my temper. My parents divorced, I was probably mad about that, and then I just had a temper anyway. My dad inadvertently taught me something called differential relaxation. It's where you tense and release the tension in every muscle in your body. And he taught me to do it so I could drive without wearing myself out, because I was driving a lot back and forth between college and our house. It was this old CD thing he had, and so close to meditation. I fall into meditative state with it. And that helped me tame the beast of my anger and my inability to control it. That I had this peaceful place that inadvertently, he didn't teach it to me as a meditative element, right? But it turned out being kind of where I landed with it. So taming that was probably good. Maybe the third thing, I just want to be right the first time I do everything. And so I'm very thoughtful. I'm doing the new thing. What's the right way to do it, right? And I'm very competitive, so I want to be right, and so I want it to be right, the first time I do it. In math and science, and in my engineering career, my life sciences career, I had a chance to develop a sense of being innovative and leading edge, and so I was right very often the first time, and so that to me was a fundamental character trait. And when I got into music, I was wrong every time, all the time, right? And you're like, oh my God, what am I doing, right? I'm just terrible at this thing, and I've never been terrible at a thing in my life. Why is that the case, right? And then you sort of get over yourself. You're like, okay, right? Did you put your 10,000 steps in here like you did it somewhere else? And you're like, well, no, I didn't. Well, how the heck are you going to be intuitive and good at a thing if you haven't put your time in? But just getting over myself and the need to be right in music was a huge hamper the first year or two I was in it, because I just wasn't going to be right. I mean, it made me practice like heck, which that was good, but it also, it was something I had to get over. So maybe those are the three big areas for me that were the biggest challenges. Everything else has been just phenomenal, Hillary. I got have a great life, I have a great wife, I have great children, I have great friends. I mean, it's like God or the universe, they're smiling at me, right? I feel blessed, in that regard.
That's wonderful. That's so good to hear. What would you tell your younger self if you could pass on it wisdom?
Yeah, for younger me, it would probably be around, those three areas. There's a lot of angles to my personality that are rounded now that were not rounded when I was younger. Now, luckily, it didn't cost me any friendships. I was able to, sort of navigate still with those edges in place. But I just feel like they were abusive sometimes to my friends and my family where I didn't need to be. And I would love to go back as an act of kindness to my friends and family and say, hey, dude, shave those edges off, baby. Keep a few of them, but you don't need them all, right? So that's probably what I would tell myself.
And what are your plans now? What's your next steps? Where do you see your music going in your life?
Yeah, I'm in this really amazing spot, Hillary. I have a spring and a fall tour planned this year. I think we have 90 dates booked out of 140 that we're going to play for the year. Going west in the spring and east in the fall. In a regular writing space, I just put new music out about 4 weeks ago about one of the things I love talking about, AI and the revolution in the world, and what does it mean to be human. And so for me, that song's it's creating a lot of dialogue, and it's successfully, interacting with my fans, and I'm really appreciative for that. I have another 5 songs on this album to release as singles before the album itself comes out. And so this year I'll be releasing singles against the Science in Me album. So thus far, I've put out a song called Fake Gravity, which is a nerdy love song. And I've put out a song called Man in the Sky, and I've put out a song called Velocity, and then What Does It Mean to Be Human just released. And so this next song I have coming up Friday of next week, I'll be dropping Let It Rain. It's a cathartic piece for me about losing my brother, and just sort of being in the mindset, could I've done something to prevent his suicide? Could I have been there more? How do you go through the process of forgiveness for yourself for something like that happens in your life? And so I'm processing that at the request of my friends and family, because other people are going through that same thing too. And so I'm hopeful that it creates a dialogue, not only for me, maybe, but for somebody else who is in the same situation. So that song's releasing Friday of next week, and I'll be touring behind that, as well as additional songs this year. I'm doing a lot of co-writes and collaboration I'm super excited about. I'm really having a great time with my wife. We love to go hiking in national forests and state parks, and so we've got 2 or 3 hiking trips planned for the year. Check off a few more national parks and state forests. We're going to do Big Bend, and we're going to go out to Alaska, and so super excited about taking trips with her. We really love doing that. And my daughter and I have some plans to do a couple of father-daughter hiking expeditions as well. And my son and I are enjoying co-writing. So I would say life is good. I've got a lot of great plans for the year, and I would invite everyone who's listening, if you see me coming through your town on the Good Vibes Highway Tour, which is what I call it, please connect with me. I love to do volunteer events in the cities that I visit, and so I love to rally up people to do food bank or something that's meaningful in the community as I'm moving through town. And so that will be a fun thing to do as well.
How far west are you going?
Roughly, my tours are about 20,000 miles of driving. This time and last time, kind of a similar-ish route. I leave Texas through, I zigzag through Texas and then out through New Mexico and then up through Washington into Canada. I run across the top of Canada, south Vancouver into California, and I run all the way down the coast of California, and then I zigzag back through the central part of the West, Arizona, New Mexico, and so until I get back to Houston.
How many months will that take?
It takes about 3 months. I think 65
Wow.
days. I think it's so fun. I could probably do without the 5 hours of driving a day. I have a little camper that I pull behind my SUV, and so I drop it off somewhere, go play my show, come back. I have a little bit of home with me in the trailer. It takes, so every day basically it's about a 5-hour drive, and then a show that night, and then I love to get out and rollerblade and rock climb and surf, whatever I can do while I'm in the area, right? Whatever time permits.
Is your wife going with you?
She comes a week out of every month. Touring is new. She's been so amazing. When I had the opportunity, the the requirement really is to be out on the road for 60 days minimum. Otherwise, you just don't get the booking opportunities because people, as a new artist, don't think you're serious. And so for me to get the booking, I had to commit to 60 days, which means I had to ask her, would it be okay if I was on the road for 60 days, right? Because she didn't marry a musician. She married an aerospace engineer. And so she was so gracious. She said, look, you got to go do this. You have the opportunity and the passion. You got to go do it. And so we experimented around with what was comfortable for her to be out on the road with me. And so we sort of settled on a week is great. That week I can maybe instead of booking 7 shows, that week I'll book 3 shows. And then she and I will get a chance to go hiking for a few days and spend time together. I focus more on us, and then I'm back at it again, and that is a great pick. Yes, I look forward to it every time I can see it coming up on the calendar. So it's pretty awesome.
So do you have this all planned out before you leave?
Yeah, it takes a year in advance to plan a tour. So you're booking everything a year in advance. Yeah.
So do you know I live in Joshua Tree?
I do, and I really want to come there for the festival, and I've never been. A couple of friends of mine told me I need to go.
Oh, for the music festival?
Yeah.
We also have a national park.
I did not realize that. Okay.
Oh, we have an exquisite national park. It's as big as Rhode Island.
Okay.
And you should look it up. And it's very different because you're talking about desert. It actually covers 2 different desert ecosystems.
That is cool. I've heard, so I do play lead guitar for my church. There's a CCM, a contemporary Christian band that's a part of it's a bigger church here in town. So when I'm in town, I play, once a month or so for them. And several of the Christian artists who've toured through to play with us have suggested I go to Joshua Tree because there's an amazing music festival there. I think a few writers that I know, performers I know, Matt Kearney and a few other folks actually, attended as well. And so I've been meaning to make it out there I haven't figured out the festival thing. It's all, I got no label. I'm figuring that out on my own. I haven't figured out the festival thing yet. I've played a few. A couple of friends of mine have invited me to come out as a guest for Burning Man, which I haven't been to yet. Just my schedule hasn't allowed for it. But it seems to me like Burning Man has a similar, I don't know, maybe there's a little bit of an anti-establishment element to Burning Man. Freedom and expression, I'd love it. That's my cup of tea.
And love. I think that's a big theme for them. And it's very loving, and it's multicultural and multi-generational.
That sounds amazing, amazing. We live in Fort Bend County here in the Houston area, and it's the most diverse, ethnically diverse and culturally diverse county in the country. So there's just a phenomenal melting pot here, and it's amazing. I love talking to people from every walk of life. It's I'm curious. I gotta ask all the questions.
That's what I'm about too. Curiosity, connection, communication. Yeah. Well, let me know if you get this way.
I will definitely be passing through the area during my tour. I'm going to mark up the area now and find out. I'd love to say hi in person. That would be awesome for sure. I got to look through my tour dates and see when it's going to happen and if you'll be around, but that would be awesome.
So we've hit an hour or close to it. It'll be a little less when I edit. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for being on my show, for reaching out, and for everything you're bringing to the world.
You're welcome. And thank you, Hillary, for having an amazing podcast and being such a great soul. I love talking to you.
I do too. Talking to you, I love it too. Thank you. After Mark and I hung up, I still had questions. The first question was, when life is heavy, grief, stress, disappointment, what helps you keep your positive charge without ignoring what's real? And here's the answer he sent me.
Hey, Hillary. Great question. When life is heavy, when I've got some disappointment or stress or even grief, it's tough to keep that positive sheen, that positive charge. I find myself defaulting back to a breathing exercise that I learned, differential relaxation journey with my dad. I've modified it over the years, and it's become like this little 100 breath ritual where I breathe in and just say the word thankful. I do that 100 times and it helps sort of reset my mind. And then I'm able to step back away and get some distance from the grief or the stress, be thankful for where I am, and also find an extra well of energy then that I'm able to tackle the thing that's making my life heavier. And ultimately it ends up lifting me up.
The second question was, when you ask, what does it mean to be human in a world of AI? What's your personal answer right now?
What does it mean to be human in a world of AI? What a great question. And I would say I'm still learning what that is. I find myself often attracted, because I have a curious mind, to new things. And AI certainly is the shiniest new penny out there for me. I really enjoy exploring what it can and can't do. And I find myself getting frustrated often by what I thought it could do and it doesn't do it. I think finding my own personal humanity in that is a tough question. I think I'm creative and independent, and I have a lot of thoughts about what I'd like AI to do for me. And so for me at the moment, I have this sort of manifest destiny that I'm living my life in my own little reality, and AI is there to help me. And so for me, for now, my humanity and my creativity are still intact, but I feel AI wearing at the edges of that, and I feel myself often thinking of interacting with the different AI models in more of a human way. And I'm not sure as we move forward, I am sure as we move forward that gap will continue to close, and it'll be harder and harder to discern the differences between AI and humanity. And I'm not really sure I have a great answer at the moment, other than sort of living in my own personal reality bubble and trying to be mindful of the human connections in my life.
The third question was, after somebody leaves your show, what do you hope they feel or do that they weren't feeling before?
After somebody leaves my show, I hope I've elevated their level of appreciation for the world and the people in it, and the fact that if we come together as a community, a lot more positive energy will be the result. The old 1 + 1 = 3. If you get enough positive people together. And so hopefully I've helped lift their day and bring a little positive energy, created a little proton to shine a light in the world around them as they're leaving the show.
That's Mark. Everything I heard from him was so bright and positive and willing to leave the world a better place. He is a musician, former aerospace engineer, and someone who understands that creativity isn't about escape. It's about responsibility. In this conversation, we talked about curiosity, about listening for what's true, and about what it takes to step into the unknown again. Not because it's comfortable, but because it's necessary. These are the kind of conversations I want to be having right now. Conversations that do not rush to answer, but stay present with the questions. If this episode stayed with you, I invite you to share it, leave a review, and subscribe. It helps these voices travel further. You can find notes and reflections on Substack, where Driftwood Conversations continues between episodes. Thanks for listening. This is Driftwood Conversations, and I'm Hillary Sloan.